Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Diaspora Dialogue Series with LA. I am Lillian Agbayegbe, your host on this program. I'm excited to be having another conversation with a member of the diaspora. Dr. Chichi Nwajei has done a lot of work, but she's originally from Nigeria. Dr. Chichi, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. So we know from the very beginning you were like in primary school, in high school. When did you have this thought about what you wanted to become in the future that influenced your going to the university? What did you study and why?
Okay, great question. Thank you so much for all the people who are listening as well. So let me just break it down in a simple system. I schooled in Nigeria.
Okay, and before you go on, sorry, I didn't do that because the people know me, I did this program. But let's introduce you, Dr. Chichi. You're joining me from Maryland, but tell us your full name and what you did here in Maryland.
Of course. My name is Dr. Chichi Nwajei. I am an optometrist by profession. And so I also host themed events, which has allowed me to not only bring people together, but also build my own personal network. So it's been an honor to do that. But I went to school in Nigeria, and I believe that my father, my late father, he was a medical doctor, bless his soul. He inspired me in the medical field, and I just didn't know what part of the medical field I'll end up in, but optometry was still new at the time in Abia State University, and he encouraged me to look into that discipline, and that's how I became an optometrist. But when I was about 7, he had also brought home a peacock. And I remember looking at that peacock and just seeing the colors and just the confidence. And I said to myself at age 7, I said, any business I was going to have will have the name Peacock in it. And that has just been my motto, because I feel like everyone has a potential to shine and to glow and just to be the best version of themselves. So that's exactly how, my business world has grown, and I've developed as a person, but I always see in others what they don't see for themselves.
Awesome. I just love that. As you're talking, of course, I'm picturing a peacock spread out and all of its beauty. But you said optometry was maybe fairly new at the time, and you went and you studied optometry and you were following in your father's footsteps. So how did you translate from following your father's footsteps in Nigeria to coming into the United States? Well, how did that happen? What made that happen, and when did it happen?
Yeah, I actually left Nigeria to Europe, and this was in 98. And I thought it would just be a transit visit or just maybe temporary 1 year and I'll be back. I went there just to help one of my relations at the time, but I ended up visiting the US. I also had siblings here as well. So I decided to just get my American equivalent, see what technology, has to offer in terms of knowledge. And I started with volunteering in an optical shop, and I saw that was a lot that I could learn from being here. And so I also went further to explore the chances of either taking the national boards or going back to school to get the US equivalent. I also had colleagues who were trying to figure out, their next steps as well. So I tried the route of trying to go back for the equivalency, but in terms of going back to school, it was more difficult. It was a long drawn situation that either I had to go through the entire program all over again or just be on a waiting list for 1 or 2 universities that offered the accelerated program. So I decided to, come back to the drawing board, and I went forward with taking the national boards, and that was my path to getting my optometry license. And I am licensed in Washington, D.C. Was it easy? No. Did it require a lot of faith? Yes, it did. But it wasn't for me to stop halfway. It was just for me to get up and put in the work and just, I said a lot of prayers, but I know that God had things lined up so that there will always be that ability to just believe and keep going. So the exams come in 3 parts. So it's very encouraging once you say, hey, I scaled the first one, let's go back and do the second one and the third one. So it was a journey, but it was well worth it looking back. And when I look at the interaction that I have with people, my background also plays a role because I am not just there to check people's eyes. Some actually have things on their minds. They just want to share. So I'm also there to learn from them and also just be a listening ear on other things that life can bring their way as well. So it's been a journey and it's been a great, rich experience for me.
Wow, that's remarkable. So did you have the opportunity to practice in Nigeria? Can you make a comparison between what you're doing here and what you did in Nigeria, or have you only practiced in the US?
No, I practiced a little bit in Nigeria. I served as a youth corper in a general hospital, and then I worked for a private ophthalmologist. And so that was a good experience for me because we kind of saw patients who were referred by like Luth and other organizations and other establishments, other hospitals, people who just needed a second opinion. So it was a great place for me to practice. And I just from that point on, the trip that I made to Europe became a decision that I had to make. I wasn't even sure I was ready for because I was comfortable where I was. And then here comes a chance for me to leave my beloved country and I didn't feel ready. And so when I left Europe and I now came to the US and I started with that volunteering opportunity, like I had mentioned, and then had the chance to really see how the practices run here and how many things that we may have studied on the theory side, but may not really have applied things like learning how the insurances work and being able to look at different brands of contact lenses and how, just the different technologies are going to the frames, even having a chance to go to like the Vision Expo that attracts all kinds of companies and nationalities just gather. Sometimes it's in New York and sometimes it's in different states, but it gave me a chance to see how broad the industry really is. So the eye is really the part of your body that light shines through for us to get to see. It looks small on the face, but if you see the amount of knowledge that goes behind it, it's very, very empowering. But also, I remember when I did my project in Nigeria, I actually selected geriatric conditions I had identified as the most common ones to do a research in my own village. I kind of felt, very, very proud of myself that I was able to go into the village, speak the dialect, ask questions, take histories. But it was really almost heartbreaking that some people were blind from just having mature cataracts because they don't have the funds to have it removed. And meanwhile here, people go in and out for a cataract surgery. They are not kept overnight. It's just you get in, they do the procedure, you leave and come back the next day for a follow-up. So there are so many areas that we could, offer some help. Some people do health fairs and all that and try to meet needs, but sometimes it's difficult for you to even know how to meet that need. But if you're in a position, if you can supply some revenue, if you can help, if you're in a position to travel to some other countries. There are some countries that have an overflow and don't even know it, while others are very thankful if they can just have just plain reading glasses, for example. So in my position, I feel like I've been able to do the much I can. Sometimes I collect used glasses and I send them to Nigeria.
Okay, I
It
was going
doesn't
to ask whether you've had
yeah, it doesn't mean that everybody in Nigeria cannot afford their eye exams, but some people could use some help. Over here as well, there are people that also need help. So I just try to balance my views when I see the need. Yeah.
Have you had an opportunity to do anything about cataracts? Because that was one of the things that came out from your project study, and project is kind of like the big thing you do when you're in university in Nigeria. And so coming here and seeing how that is an in and out procedure here. Do you have connections with the optometry? And I don't know whether it's the ophthalmologist, optometry, which one it is in Nigeria. Are you connected with your old school or any professionals there transferring knowledge?
Yeah, actually, as optometrists, we refer the patients when they need the cataract surgery done. So it's really, we care for them the much that we can in terms of improving the vision, the best we can with the optical tools that we have available. But it's imperative for us to continue to also educate. There are other things like glaucoma and other areas as well that could be managed with early detection, using the drops as needed. You know, some people can't even afford to eat. So some things are like, let's hold on that first. But some people get worse without being treated. So I do belong to my classmates' WhatsApp group. So we communicate. Some of them have practices that are well established in Nigeria as well. So I know that sometimes they have like National Vision Day or National Sight Day, things like that. So they do rallies and they do post pictures of what they're doing. So I feel like even if we're far away, we can also still contribute to causes just by giving back and being the place that you have already started from as a background. You can lend your voice or use the knowledge to share with other people to better create awareness for ways people can support.
That's awesome, awesome. So growing up, the plan was not really to come to the US. You actually went to Europe and you just somehow found yourself in the US. How has that experience been for you? Has it been an experience where you said to yourself, oh, this was a brilliant decision, or like, maybe, maybe not?
Yeah, it's home is still home. There are some values that are transferable and some are just not. You have to get it by being right there, either in the village or in the city. And I understood that even better because there is a big cultural shock, at least for a lot of people, the first 6 months where you feel, well, I speak English and I'm in a country that speaks English, so I should be good. No, it's a whole lot of cultural adjustments, and
So
we
tell
just
us
have to
what.
understand that we can have perfect conditions everywhere. There are people who have the money here in the US, have the big houses and the latest cars, but they don't have that sense of community. They don't have a feeling that they're actually enjoying the life that they have created, which is very, very almost systematic, triangular. You go out, you go here, you come back. No experience in the middle of that. Who are you empowering? Whose life are you making a difference in? It shouldn't just be about money and bills. There has to be more to life. You have to find something that you can connect yourself to that is bigger than you. So that helps in the adjustment and in just seeing that you're in this place for a purpose, I guess for a reason. But also when it comes to the Nigerian experience, there are people who are in Nigeria who may be doing well, but some might just have so many people who have needs. So it becomes more difficult for them to live comfortably because there's always a cousin or a friend who needs some kind of support just because it's a very different society. So what I will say is that anywhere that we find ourselves, we have to identify what problem we can solve. What is it that you can do that can make a difference in lives? Sometimes you may not cry about everything and have answers to everything or explain everything to everybody, but you might be able to just pick a handful of people you can mentor. You can pick a handful of people that you can pour into, and that gives you a different perspective. If you had to be thankful for one thing, at least you're alive. What else can you do to make your situation better? What skill set can you try to have that can make that journey different than what it was the year before? So those kinds of questions now make it about you and not always about your location. Because if you can sell an idea to people who are around you, you can make a huge difference to those who are right there. And impact sometimes is not felt. Impact is something that people don't always talk about, but when that person stops doing what they do, that's when everybody goes, why did you stop? We were enjoying this, or you were helping us with that. But it was a silent communication the entire time. You were not getting praised, but you kept feeling like, well,
maybe
am
not.
I gonna keep going? Is anyone even noticing? Just keep being your purpose so that your location will not make a difference. And if you're able to help and support other causes while you are at it, if you have the means to, please do, because it comes back around. Everything you sow comes back around.
There's a
So
lot
that's what I believe.
There's a lot you've said there to unpack. I wanted to go back first when you said, the triangle, like work, bill, and paying bills. Is there some particular experience that stands out for you in terms of living a triangular life? So could you say that triangular life is the culture that you saw here different from what was in Nigeria, or was the triangular life in both places?
No, I think in Nigeria, honestly, there's a higher sense of community based on where you stay. I lived in the city, but we moved back to the village when my parents retired. So it's really communal. Like, people generally knock on your door, know when you're not feeling good, So you have to identify what it is that you enjoy. In that level of sense of community, there are also people that may not want all that. They feel, I just want my space. But if you enjoy that level of community, you will know that it gives you a sense of belonging to a bigger society, especially if you can add value. It's not always about what you can get, but what you can give. And so that takes you out of that box of feeling isolated or alone. You can express your thoughts. You can go to a party because you probably don't need an invitation to show up, and you can dance, and that can take some stress off of you. But when you live in a society like the US, is more structured. In fact, sometimes when you call people, you might be disturbing them because they may have just come in from work. You don't even know how people operate until you ask, is it a good time for me to text you? Can I call you? What's a good time to, reach out? Even when you're offering free lunch, they may not have time. So you have to figure out what your real sense of time management is, and also emotional management, so that you don't have expectations that cannot be met. People don't just mean to ignore you. It might just not be a good time. So I kind of learned to understudy the culture so that I can function in this society and not have excuses. Because excuses can be clutches that make people not grow. Someone is not talking to me because they feel I don't communicate well. That's their problem. I am doing the best I can, right? But when I identify what it is that I really need to work on, it's not what I'm saying. It's probably when I'm saying it. It's probably who I'm saying it to. So make sure you build authentic friendships, so that you don't just make it about having a large crowd of people around you, but it's actually about building relationships that are healthy. People don't always want to talk about everything they're going through, and they don't have to. Or you can just have someone that you can just call on the whim, and they may have an ear for you. So don't feel isolated. Have some kind of community and support system that you can rely on. And that will be a good thing for everybody, really.
Awesome. You made some contributions also about location. I really like what you said about, you wouldn't need an invitation to show up in a party. Although I think Nigeria has gotten there, but in those days, right, people just showed up. You could invite one person and they could come with 20 people to your birthday party, and that was all well and good and dandy. Not so much in the US. You better make sure that you have an invitation to show up, otherwise you're on your own when you show up. You said something also, you said, make sure that you're living about you and not about the location. So whether you're in the US or whether you're in Nigeria, it really shouldn't matter, as long as you as a person, you're putting something and making a difference. But I think that to some extent you can look at location and be nostalgic. Is there something you're nostalgic about, like I wish this was happening here, you know. Is this something you miss about Nigeria? Is this something that you're like, oh, this isn't here, and it makes me feel like everything is not complete. Is there something that stands out for you from Nigeria that you missed? And we will do the converse
Sure.
with
Uh,
what is it here that you particularly like about here that makes you say, I'm glad I'm here.
Yeah, I think I'm a more wholesome person because I've been able to blend my lessons from Nigeria to the lessons that I have also learned from here. So I do not in any way say that I am the same. No, I'm not. I am better for stretching, for seeing other cultures, for being able to go firsthand to certain locations, certain museums. You know, I can share my experiences. I always like to read when I was even in Nigeria. So being able to actually see certain places, I can write about them. I love to write as well. So when I look at life from that angle, it makes it like a more balanced outlook. But I remember a few times when I visited home, people are waiting to help you serve you food and wait on you and, you know, make sure you are not stressing out to take care of anything. Like there's a driver waiting to take you places. There is food already made in such a way that your comfort is the ultimate thing. And it's a warmth that generally is embedded in the African culture. It is something that even when tourists visit certain countries, they come back and they speak about that. So we are, of course, taught growing up, don't talk to strangers and all that. We still have our boundaries for our own safety. But as a people, we understand hospitality. And I think that that is a very big part of the culture because here in the US, you're pretty much, you know, like a mom taxi, trying to get it all and balance it all and do it all kind of mindset because people just do it. But I think if you're overwhelmed, you can either ask for help or look around for resources that might reduce that stress. This month is mental health awareness month, so you may hear a lot of talks about that. But some people deal with pressures and all that. How can you live under such pressure and not even enjoy the benefit of what you have? The question is your cup half empty or is it half full?
Yeah.
Some people might say it's half empty because they're always looking at the empty side. But if you look at the blessings, if you count the benefits, the lessons and the joy, you know, you can have the liberty to sometimes afford a lifestyle, go to any hotel, pay for it and enjoy. Whatever it is you can do that you can be thankful for, count those blessings. You will see that someone else somewhere is praying to even have a tiny bit of what you have. So that gives you the attitude of gratitude. And that can help you scale on many, many levels. And another thing I tell myself is nothing will steal my joy. If you make that a declaration as you wake up in the morning, it may be intentional in your heart. When you leave that out, it makes a whole difference. So even when people get on your nerves, even when you get a flat tire or whatever, you still see the better way. Like, I did get a flat tire, but I'm not in an accident. Thank God I can change this tire and keep moving. So there are certain things that we have to learn. And another last thing I will put out there is learn to solve problems simply. Some people have complicated ways of solving problems. So when you give them a situation, they add more to it than even the problem. Their mind wraps more things around it. So if we can look at things and say, what is the simple solution to this? Sometimes you can leave it, rest your mind, come back to it later. Just things that give us a sense of moving forward. Praise yourself. Praise yourself for the efforts you've made. Write down things that you hope to accomplish on a daily basis. And just know that you're human. You're not a robot. You're here to build relationships around people and be the best version of yourself so that you can emulate others, but also people can emulate you because you leave a trail of excellence as you will.
That's awesome. When you said about, the hospitality, I was just thinking about this, the time I went back to Nigeria and I was staying with relative, of course, and I went to the bank and I took my younger daughter with me. And when I came back, my aunt was upset. She was like, "Oh, why didn't you leave her?" you were going to the bank. You didn't need to take her to the bank. What, were you afraid? Did you think we're going to poison her or something? You know how people really think. So, and I just had a hilarious laugh. I'm like, I'm so sorry. I said, but in the US, I take her everywhere with me. I know I'm used to. So it's like when you say when they serve you food, and if you want to stand up and go and do your dishes, they're like, oh, why are you going to? But it's like, no, I do my dishes myself. But no, I serve myself. I live after myself. But the thing there is very different, where you have people, it's hospitality, you called it, but you have people waiting on your hand and feet, and they make sure that they take care of you. You want to do something, people help you run errands and things like that, and you don't have to do a whole bunch of stuff yourself. But now you've been here for quite a while, and you've been, what would you say is something that you really think you've been able to accomplish because you were here, that you think that, you might not have done that if you had remained in Nigeria?
Yeah, I think the biggest part is just my personal growth and just having the opportunity to attend certain conferences and mingle at a different level with certain people in conclusion of where you want to go in life, right? Everybody has an idea where they want to go, but sometimes you don't even know that time goes fast. So there is a very fast pace here. Before you say Happy New Year, is already the middle of the month, the middle of the year, and the end of the year is around the corner again. So I think that part of it, and also the fact that there are seasons here where you have to sort of adjust to the seasons. We only have the rainy and the dry season in Nigeria. So here you're dealing with people who go through mood changes because it's the winter time, then the spring, the allergies. It's just the changes. So you as an individual have to understand that it's okay to be adaptable. It's okay to change up your colors around the seasons because you're learning it here. There are some holidays we didn't grow up with, Thanksgiving and all that. You mingle and you learn. I think if we can emulate the cultures that are good, you're also a better person because you can share other experiences, other kinds of foods. You can learn new things. And so for me, I think that part has been awesome where I have actually grown as a person and I can offer more to my community, not just the people who I meet here, but also people who I left at home. I'm still able to communicate because I now have a different style of presenting what I'm doing and how I see myself. So I just believe that I have become a better
You become
citizen
a better
to
person, a
both,
fuller person, and you're able to
yeah,
give more
yeah,
to
both
society.
places. Yeah,
Society. So
absolutely. And I
saying
work
about,
with kids.
uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
So talking about giving more to society, where do you stand on that spectrum of, after a while I'm going to retire and go back home, or this is home? Where do you stand on that? Is there some retiring and going back home? Is this home? Is that home? What's the final end all, or does all of that not matter to you?
I think that it's easier said than done certain times. I was, saying that I love to work with kids. I teach children in Sunday school in church. And so I believe that when it comes to ministry and service, some things can evolve. There are people who, after a while of still doing their own runs, and even after retirement here, they get tired of that and just decide, you know what, let's just go to Nigeria so that we can know that we can just visit as needed. But also they have to make the arrangements so that it will be convenient, especially people who have kids here and all that. So I think it's not something that you just do. You have to plan for it so that you make sure if you're thinking of just visiting Nigeria, you have places that you can still stay that are comfortable. But if you plan to relocate to go there, then there's a different kind of planning. Left for me, I think I can live anywhere. I love Nigeria. I would just have to get used to how things are done now, which wasn't like that. And again, the access to technology here which is more constant. You pay a lot of bills, but you get it back through constant power supply and internet service and other things that we even take for granted because they are constantly there. And also there is so much food, even to the point of waste. Well, in Nigeria, there might be people that are just looking for a way to get through. Not every family, but some need support with their children, with school. So there are some balances, like here, the public education is free for the kids up to a certain time. So I believe that both places do have their benefits, but when it comes to retirement, that can be definitely a joy. Like some people just want to have flexibility to travel. They want to be able to see other parts of the world. They are not even trying to stay in one place. They just want to see, I went to Europe, I did this, but for you to travel, it needs funding. So you have to be ready to make the necessary sacrifices or put some investment ideas in place so that that lifestyle that you're praying for will continue. But left to me, I think that I would love to be in a place where I don't have to do so much. I will have people helping me out with certain chores at certain ages. If there should be some things that kids and grandkids or nieces should be doing when we get older. Because we did it for our aunties and uncles and moms and dads growing up. So chores and all of that. So it can be a lot. It can be a lot based on how you look
Can
at
be
both
anywhere,
places.
absolutely a lot. Yesterday I was walking past the computer lab in a university, and the lab was there was just one person in the lab, and I was remembering when I was doing my master's where we had all those computer labs, and it just used to be full, but then we didn't have a lot of laptops in those days, and now practically a lot of people have laptops. So the lab computer labs in the universities are empty. But then you have to think when you're talking about technology, like you're talking about if you go to Nigeria, how many universities have fully equipped computer labs, and I'm sure if they had computer labs, people would be using them. They wouldn't be empty because everybody doesn't have a personal laptop. So I see that trade-off that you're saying that yes, and I can imagine being, older and going. So the solution here to have people do things for you here is to go to a nursing home, and then you can have people taking care of you in a nursing home. But if you wanted to age in place, maybe Nigeria is the place to age in place because you can have family and relatives working on that for you. So, Dr. Chichi, it's been very remarkable talking to you, learning about you studying optometry and then coming to the US and navigating and having to go back, but really having the opportunity to practice what you studied here. I don't think a lot of people get this opportunity. It doesn't come readily to everybody. But evolving here as well, and doing your own thing and taking your value from your ability to contribute to society. What would you say is your um one achievement as we're rounding up? I'm mindful of your time, but what would you say is something that you're really like very proud of that you've been able to accomplish from coming here that you like to share with our guests, our viewers and listeners?
Yeah. I think honestly, I want to be very, very humble about this. I've always loved books, and I knew that I had so many books in me. But last year, I was able to write my first book, Dream Big, and it felt like it needed to have been done a long time because I've encountered so many people in my journey of working with people in the business world, in the medical field. And the biggest thing that holds a lot of people back are either things they know but don't know how to get around it, or things they don't even identify. And so I was able to sit down and put those down in form of the book. And I can tell you that it's a big transformation, not just that I started it, but because I completed it, that has given me a whole different kind of audience for those who come now to say, I really want to do this. I want to write a book, or I want to finish a project. These are things that we need to dwell more on. What is it that is holding us back? What can we change? Who is in our circle? Who are you listening to? What voice do you pay attention to? Because sometimes we have voices that either say, keep going, or Are you sure this is going to work? And so we have to stay within positive environments that empower us, but also equip us to be our best selves. And the truth is that two things. I know that anything that does not scare me is not big enough. I also know that the minute my wagon is moving, other people that are hitched to my wagon are moving as well, even when they are not physically holding on, even if they are just online audiences or people in your community. Keep that going, because you remember, and if you're overwhelmed, then it may not be for you. I don't believe that passion should have a struggle to it. I think you should enjoy what you're passionate about. So that has helped me just keep going and just stay afloat and keep believing. People that I relate to and those that I'm in contact with, I am always a student, because I know that there may be certain things that others are better than me at. So I am a master at delegating. So learn to delegate, because some of us want to do it all. You know, you have a responsibility, you feel you must handle it all by yourself. It shouldn't be that way. So I've learned that as I build from the grassroots when it comes to communities, giving people a chance to see where their own ideas are coming from. What do you think about this? What would you suggest? Let's talk about it. You're also building people up. So a lot of leadership goes into that, a lot of training, a lot of mentorship, but just knowing that if I was given this chance to do this again, I still put in my very best. That keeps me going. So I think that in general, I would say just put a smile on someone's face. Look for a way to volunteer. Always look for something you can do to give back to the community. Don't always do things for what you will get. What you will get will come back around to you. But identify your goals so that you're very clear. One last thing we have to remember, which I tell myself every day, your destiny helpers will never recognize you if you're not working at what you should be working at. They will only identify you when they see you busy doing what you're supposed to do. Being busy and being productive are two different things. So make sure you line up your goals to match what will make you feel like you're progressing. And when you're tired, it's okay to rest, so that you're not impressing anyone, but you're just doing things to be a blessing to this generation. So I think I will stop with that. Thank you so much for
No,
having me. In my social media handles are at Peacock House on Facebook and Instagram, Dr. Chichi Show on Facebook and YouTube, www.thepeacockhouse.com, and I can continue with the conversation. If there's any area that I spoke about and someone wants more clarity on that or more information, I can then give them that as well. So thank you very much for having me on
awesome.
your
But
show.
please
I
tell us
appreciate
where
it.
I was like picking those nuggets, nuggets here, nuggets there. And I was like, okay, fine. If you're listening, you can always replay it to get all the nuggets that she's saying. But I'm not going to let you go without her telling us where can they find your book, Dr. Chichi, because there's too many nuggets for them to rewind and rewind and rewind. So maybe they should get a copy of the book in their hands, or, if it is the ebook, where can people get your book?
Sure. Thank you again for giving me the chance to share that. My book is called Dream Big by Dr. Chichi Nwajei. Two ways to get them. I have the ebook, the soft cover, and the hard cover. So you can go on Amazon to order any of those options. And you can also go to my website, thepeacockhouse.com, and you can also order a copy of the actual book. Either way, just know that you have a choice. So if you're an ebook person, then definitely you go to Amazon and you can get that option as well.
Friends, thank you for listening. You have been listening to Dr. Chichi Nwajei, my guest today on the Diaspora Dialogue Series with LA. You're going to find her at thepeacockhouse.com. And that peacock came from an experience she had when she was 7 years old, when her dad brought a peacock to the house, and she was enamored by the beauty of the peacock. And she believes that you also have potentials. You can dream big. And I think I like one of the things that she said is like, if your vision doesn't scare you, hey, maybe you should go back to sleep and dream again so that you can dream big and be able to move your passion. You don't have to struggle with it. Things will come naturally to you. I'm just thinking back about growing up in Nigeria and the hospitality where people wait on you. But really coming to the US and having the opportunity to develop on so many fronts by reading, by the difference in the culture and going to people. And there's so much that we learned from this conversation. I'm going to have another guest for you the next time, and we're going to learn a lot about their journey from the diaspora and how they're living here in the new land. Until I come your way again next time, thank you for listening. Bye.